Chapter 14. Lost. Night fell fast in the forest once the sun had set. Septimus and Nico were sitting gloomily on a fallen tree. Septimus was holding his compass in the palm of his hand, trying to see which way the quivering needle was pointing. The light was nearly gone, and the dragon ring was beginning to glow. But it didn't help that Septimus's hand was shaking. A familiar sense of dread was stealing over him, which always came with the approach of night in the forest. "It's the forest twilight now, Nick," whispered Septimus. "We ought to keep still for a while. It's not a good time to be moving, not while things are shifting." Far away in the castle, Silas and Sarah watched the sun set from the palace roof, and realized at last that Simon was not going to bring Jenna home. In a state of panic, they set off for the Wizard Tower to see Marcia. They met her on Wizard Way as she was heading to see Weasel Van Clamp. Deep in the forest, at its very center, Septimus and Nico sat silently together. Septimus felt the sun drop behind the hills, the air grow chill, and the shift between day and night begin. The forest was changing into a nighttime creature as the darkness closed in, and with a sense of foreboding, Septimus recognized the strange feeling of thickness in the atmosphere that the forest night brought with it. "I'm really sorry, Sep," Nico mumbled desolately. "Shh," Septimus whispered. "Don't speak unless you have to." Nico sat quietly, trying to keep calm. He didn't like the forest much, even in the daylight. He hated the feeling it gave him of not being able to escape quickly, of being trapped in the middle of the endless tangle of tree trunks and branches. Although, as long as he kept moving and could see where he was going, Nico could just about stand it. But not now, now that a thick blanket of blackness was beginning to surround them. He felt a panic rising inside him, which made him want to scream out loud. Nico had only felt like that once before in his life, when he had been trapped in the castle rubbish chute. But that time he had been with Marcia, and she had quickly freed them. This time he was on his own. "When you were here on a night exercise, what did they teach you? I mean, what did you have to do?" whispered Nico. "Well, once, in the unarmed animal combat exercise, we had to dig a wolverine pit and spend the night waiting for a wolverine to drop in. It didn't, though, not into our pit anyway, but we lost 3 boys in the pit near us. They put up a good fight, but the wolverine won. It was an awful noise. Then, sometimes, on compass reading exercises, they tied a boy to a tree, and we had to try and find him before he got eaten. Didn't always get there in time." "Ah," said Nico with a shudder. "Shouldn't have asked. Thought they might have taught you some survival skills." "They did," said Septimus. "Keep out of the way of anything that runs faster than you and has more teeth than you. Watch out for the carnivorous trees, 'cause you can never tell which ones they are until it's too late. Oh yes, and the most important thing of all." "Yes?" "Don't stay out in the forest after dark." "Very funny," mumbled Nico. "I think," Septimus whispered, "that we should try and find somewhere safe to spend the night. Up a tree would be best." "Up a carnivorous tree, you mean?" "Nico, just be quiet, will you?" "Sorry, Sep. Like I said, we should climb up a tree, and it's just luck whether it's carnivorous or not." "What? You can't tell?" "Not at night. You just take your chance. That's what the night forest is all about, Nick. Anyway, like I said, if we can get up a tree we should be safe from wolverines, though of course we'll have to keep watch for blood-sucking tree rats." "Great. And some of the older trees are infested with leaf leeches. I spent a night in a tree once with the leader cadet, and when I woke up in the morning I thought he'd hidden himself with camouflage, but he was covered from head to foot with leaf leeches." Septimus gave a chuckle. "Served him right." "Stop," hissed Nico. "Just stop. I don't want to hear any more, okay? Let's just find a tree and cross our fingers." Septimus hauled his heavy bag onto his shoulders, and they set off. This time Nico followed Septimus. Septimus's dragon ring was shining brightly in the dark, and he pushed his hand into his pocket to douse the glow. He knew that a light would draw every creature to them for miles around, and would particularly attract forest wraiths. Septimus trod slowly and silently through the trees, and Nico followed him as carefully and quietly as he could. But Nico was less agile than Septimus, and try as he might, every now and then his foot snapped a twig or rustled a leaf. Septimus knew that sooner or later a creature or a thing would hear them. They needed to get up into the safety of a tree, fast. Desperately he scanned every tree they passed to see if there were any low branches that might give them a handhold, but there were none. They were in the middle of the ancient part of the forest, where all the trees grew tall and kept their branches high above the ground. Suddenly, Septimus felt a pincer-like grip on his arm. Ouch! Shh! Septimus spun around to see Nico still clutching his arm and staring wide-eyed into the darkness. Sep, what's that? Over there. I saw something yellow and shining. Septimus scanned the darkness, using the army trick of glancing sideways to see in the dark. It was the sight he had been dreading. They were surrounded by a sea of yellow eyes. Rats, muttered Septimus. Rats? Whispered Nico. Oh, that's a relief. For a moment I thought it was wolverines. It is wolverines. Loads of them. But you said it was rats. Nico sounded aggrieved. Shut up, Nico. I'm trying to think. Can you get my fast freeze charm out of my bag? Septimus gulped. Quickly. Can't you do a fast freeze without a charm yet? No. Hurry up. Nico tried to open Septimus's backpack, but his hands were shaking so much he couldn't even find the buckle in the dark. Septimus was annoyed with himself. He knew he should have taken the charm out of the bag, so it would be ready when he needed it, but he hated the Night Forest as much as Nico did, and somehow his brain seemed to have stopped working. I can't undo your stupid bag, hissed Nico with panic raising in his voice. Can't you transfix them like you did that horse? What? Get them to form an orderly line so that I can do them one at a time, you mean? Can't you do them all at once? No. Septimus scanned the waiting pairs of yellow eyes. They were getting nearer and spreading out. He knew the wolverines were beginning their practice routine of encircling their prey. If he and Nico waited any longer, they would be trapped in the middle of the circle. Run! Hissed Septimus. Now! Nico did not need telling twice. Septimus took off through the trees, and Nico was right behind him, ducking and diving around the massive tree trunks, leaping over fallen branches, and skidding on the slippery leaves whenever Septimus took a tight zigzag turn. But every time Nico glanced back, he saw the yellow eyes easily keeping pace, as the wolverine pack got into its nightly routine of chasing its prey and working up a good appetite for supper. Suddenly, Septimus caught his foot in a rat hole and crashed to the ground. Get up, Sep, gasped Nico, dragging him to his feet. Ah, my ankle, Septimus moaned. Nico was unsympathetic. Come on, Sep, get going. There's a pack of wolverines behind us in case you'd forgotten. Septimus hobbled on, but try as he might, he could no longer run. His ankle kept giving way beneath him. He stopped beside a tree and took off his backpack. What are you doing? Gasped Nico, horrified. It's no good, Neek, said Septimus. I can't run. You make a break for it. I'll try and find the fast freeze charm before they close in on me. Don't be stupid, snapped Nico. I'm not leaving you here. Yes, you are. I'll see you later. No, you won't. They'll eat you, you idiot. Just go, Nico. No! As Nico spoke, the last wolverine in the pack closed the circle. They were surrounded, trapped. Nico and Septimus backed up against the thick, rough trunk of a tree as slowly and stealthily the ghastly ring of yellow lights tightened around them. They stared at the sight, unable to believe that it was really happening. Like everyone else in the castle, they had had nightmares like this very moment, but the reality was much stranger than it ever had been in their dreams. It was almost beautiful, in a hypnotizing kind of way. An expectant silence fell as though all the night creatures had stopped what they were doing and were watching the performance, which tonight, for one night only, had come to their part of the forest. Nico broke the spell. He kicked the backpack over. The buckle came undone, and the contents tumbled out onto the forest floor. Both he and Septimus fell to the ground, scrabbling through the contents, frantically looking for the fast freeze charm. There's so much rubbish in here, hissed Nico. What's it look like? Not rubbish. Glass icicle. But where? Where? Uh-oh, I can smell them. The foul smell of wolverine breath, a mixture of rotting meat and gum disease, for the forest wolverines had chronic teeth problems, filled the air. With a feeling of dread, Nico and Septimus slowly looked up and found themselves staring straight into the eyes of the lead wolverine. The lead wolverine who would give the signal for the pack to pounce. A long, low snarl began somewhere deep in the stomach of the lead wolverine. The signal had begun. The surrounding yellow eyes brightened. Muscles tensed and saliva began to flow. Toothaches forgotten for the moment, the wolverine pack flicked their tongues over their muzzles and bared their long yellow and black teeth. The snarl grew louder and louder until suddenly the lead wolverine threw his head back and gave a bone-chilling howl. The pack pounced. The tree pounced. The tree got there first.